welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Noah, and in this video I am going to show you why it is a good thing to have a small take-home amount on each of your paychecks. I know there's probably a good chance that you've never heard that before, but if you give me a little bit of time, I think you will be surprised with what I have to say. As always, I hope you can take something away from this video, and with that being said, let's get right into it. So what am I talking about? What are you talking about, Noah, and why is taking home less a good thing? And I'm going to get into that right now. So on the screen right now, of course, we are in Excel as always. There are two numbers. On the left, we have 1,537, and on the right, we have 571. Now, if I had to ask you right now which dollar amount you would rather take home or you would rather see on the take-home portion of your check, a lot of people, if not everybody, would pick the 1,537. And of course, this isn't surprising because it's the larger number, but there's a few things that I haven't disclosed about the background behind these take-home amounts. So before I pull up the next dashboard here, I'm going to send out a little bit of a clarification. So for the example that I'm going to be referencing here, we're going to assume one key thing. And the assumption here is that the individual in this example is earning a salary of $50,000, which is relatively close to the median salary here in the United States. I believe as of the end of 2023, the median salary here in the United States was right around $48,000, just under $49,000. Perhaps. So I wanted to use a clean number. So for this example, we are assuming that the individuals are making $50,000 as their annual salary. So here we are in the next dashboard, and what are we looking at? There's a little bit going on here, but I want to take it step by step. So let's start over on the left-hand side here. So as I said, we are going to assume that the salary is $50,000, right? So the check amount, assuming that there's 26 pay periods, so basically you're paid twice a month, just about is going to be $1,923 is the amount that you're going to see on each of your checks. So in this first scenario, the 1,537 take-home that many people, if not everybody, would have selected when I asked the question of which amount would you rather take home, this is kind of the setup. So the 1,000, in order to get to the $1,537, as we can see here, it would essentially mean that this individual, or this in this example, there are no benefits, there are no pre-tax deductions from each of the paychecks, right? So essentially put, the check amount is going to be $1,923. This individual in this instance is not contributing, to a 401k. They are not opting in for any of their insurances, and they are not contributing to their HSA account in this example. So their taxes per check are going to be relatively high at $385. And henceforth, this is how we get to the take-home amount of $1,537 for each of their checks. On a monthly basis, this is going to be about $3,000. And annually, their take-home is going to be $39,962. So this is good, right? So we know if you selected taking home $1,537 for your check, this is what your scenario would likely be like, right? You would get your check. There would be no deductions because you're not contributing to any of those pre-tax deductions, like I mentioned, so you would get $1,537 on your check. Let's flip to the flip side, right? Let's go to the flip side now, where the individual is taking home far less, $571, to see what that's like. So moving over to the right here, like I said, the salary is going to be exactly the same at $50,000. The check amount, 1,923, is going to be exactly the same. But what is different? The benefits. This is where things are drastically different. So starting with their 401k, they are contributing $880 per paycheck to their 401k. On top of that, they are opting in to all of their insurances, right? So they have their general health insurance at $80 per check, their dental at $5 per check, and their vision insurance at $70 per check as well. And last but not least, they are also contributing $160 per check to put into their HSA account or health savings account. Now, a little bit of clarification. The reason I picked 880 here is because the maximum amount that an employee can contribute into a 401k in 2024 is $23,000, and contributing 880 per check is going to get you to that point. As far as the insurance goes, the 85 and 74, the health insurance that we see here, this is basically what I contribute. These are the costs per check for my insurance at the company that I work at, so I put them in there as a reference. And of course, for the HSA, there is a limit for the calendar year for 2024 on this as well. I believe it's right around $4,500. So $160 per check is going to get you to that point. So now, after we contribute to all of these different things, our taxes per each of our checks is going to be quite a bit lower than it was if we didn't. Now our taxes per check are going to be $156 compared to the $385 that we would have seen if we didn't contribute. This leads, of course, our take-home to be quite a bit less at $571, meaning our monthly is going to be just over $1,100, and our take-home annually is going to be $14,846. So, of course, there's going to be a stark difference in the amount of money that we're taking home between the two scenarios, but I want to go over the pros and cons of each to try to identify to you why it's more valuable, or it's a better choice, I should say, to have a lower amount, the lower $571 per check as your take home. So we know that the pro for the first scenario, right, taking home more money, is that you just get more money to spend, right? So you can, spend more on going out, you can spend more on food, your car, rent, whatever it may be. But that's where things really end, right? There's no other benefits other than that. If we flip to the other side of things, right, where we're taking home less, obviously that's a slight con there. But what are the pros in taking home less and contributing more to your insurance and your retirement planning? As I said, this individual is maxing out their 401k at $880 per check. Now, what does this mean for the long run? I'm going to show you that right now. So there's a lot of numbers going on here, so I just want to isolate just the middle portion right here. But if we assume that this individual has $0 at the time that they start earning this $50,000 salary, after 30 years, assuming that the funds that their 401k provider is investing in return 8%, which I do want to add is a very conservative return rate, generally speaking. If you would just put your money into a ETF like VOO, you're going to receive annual returns of about 10 to 12%. So 8% is a relatively conservative return rate. And of course, if we're putting in the $880 per paycheck, so that would be basically $1,660 per month, at the end of a 30-year period, this 401k balance is going to be a very impressive $2.3 million. So if this individual was maybe 25 years old when they started making this kind of money, and if they would keep on this plan, keep on investing in their 401k to get the maximum at $23,000, at least in the year 2024, the maximums go up, generally speaking, year to year. But if they would keep doing exactly what they're doing right now, by the time they're just 55 years old, quite a ways away from the official retirement age, they've already been able to accumulate $2.3 million towards their retirement. So obviously this $2.3 million is a very stark difference compared to what the first individual would have seen, right? The individual taking home more of their money would likely not have seen these type of returns. And of course, the individual that's contributing more to their benefits is obviously getting health insurance as well, which in this country is, as I always say, it's very unforgiving, right? So if something bad would happen, which things usually happen, right? When it rains, it pours. If you're not covered, your life is going to be miserable, right? It is going to be a steep bill, and it's all going to have to be out of pocket. So having insurance is also a huge, huge benefit in this scenario. And of course, last but not least, having a HSA account. I'm not going to spend too much time on the difference between HSA and FSA. You can ask your HR department to do that for you. But generally speaking, as an example, an HSA account, you put money from your check into this account and you're not taxed on it. And this money can be spent, basically untaxed money can be spent on applicable health care expenses whenever they come up. And the cool thing about HSA accounts, at least the one that I currently have at my company, is that when you get to a certain balance in this health savings account, I think it's maybe $10,000. I'm not entirely sure on that. You can actually start investing the money that's in this account and then use this money to cover applicable healthcare expenses as they rise. So that is just another benefit of the individual that's contributing more to their benefits and taking home less as a result. So now that we know the setup between the different take-home amounts, right? The 1,500 and the 571, at least in my personal opinion, I believe the pros in taking home the smaller amount, taking home the 571 per check, outweigh the cons. We can clearly see that the benefits, we can clearly see that contributing to your benefits, right? Contributing to your 401k, your HSA, and then ensuring that you have health care is extremely powerful. Not only in the present, right? If something medically were to come up, but for the future. We clearly saw that by the time 30 years has passed, continuing to invest this amount into your 401k would lead to a total dollar amount of about $2.3 million. Now, of course, I know people are going to say in the comments, or maybe you're thinking of it right now, where, it is unrealistic to assume that, we can live off of $571. And I would have to agree, right? This is basically nothing, right? Take home of $1,142 per month is just, you can't live, right, in this country. That's not a reality anymore. I would even argue that living off of $3,000 is relatively difficult. But for the sake of this conversation here, a lot of people would say, well, the setup that you have is just unrealistic because we can't live off of $571 per check. And I do, have some opinions on this. So I think my opinions will be taken in one or two ways, positive or negative, like a lot of my opinions. But the opinion that I have is that if you are in a salary category, your salary range is about $50,000, maybe 55. I think it is a wise decision to not take on the both non-essential and essential expenses that life will throw at you, essentially, when you move out of your family home, right? When you move out to take on all of these expenses on your own. So if you are, a recent graduate from high school, maybe this is your first job after college, as an example, and your salary is set at $50,000, I would strongly argue that you do contribute in full to your benefits, not only for your healthcare benefits, but your financial benefits as well. I think maximizing your benefits right from the start, right? So if you are just graduating college and this is a salary that you're going to work with, perhaps it is a good decision to go home for some time, right? Go home, start working, maximize your benefits, and then ideally you work into a higher salary range, right? Which at that point you might have enough money to start taking on the expenses that life is going to throw at you. But until that point, I think this is probably the smartest way to do things, because not only are you ensuring that you have coverage right now, you're doing good for yourself right now, but you're also setting yourself up for a very, very successful financial future as well. One more thing that you might be thinking is that, well, Noah, is it is it really mandatory? Should I really contribute the maximum amount to my 401k, at least in 2024? Is this essential? And the answer, of course, is no. You don't need to. Clearly, you don't need to contribute anything if you don't want to, but you're not going to reap the rewards that planning, 401ks, retirement planning have to offer. And the other thing that I like to mention is that generally speaking, at least in my experience talking with different individuals, hearing stories, and just finding out more details about different individuals' finances, pardon me, is that over time, investing into, maximizing your 401k generally tends to become more and more difficult. And this makes sense, right? Because as we start going through life and our financial obligations increase, which they are only going to increase to a certain point. We have a kid, we have a car, we have a new house, we have all three. It's going to be more and more difficult to allocate, more of your paycheck to your 401k. So what I hear happens a lot is that a lot of individuals will maybe maximize early on in their career, but then they'll have to go down, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 in order to support other obligations that are inevitably going to come their way. So the way that I like to think about this is that if you start maximizing right from the start, when those expenses do come your way, you're not going to really feel bad about maybe pulling $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 per year away from your 401k because you have already contributed the maximum amount for X amount of years. So there you have it. Those are just a few of my personal opinions as to why I believe having a smaller take-home amount on each of your checks is actually a good thing. But of course, I want to hear from you as well. What do you think of my opinions in these examples that I shared here? Please let me know in the comment section below. I would love to hear your thoughts. As always, if you have stuck around this far in the video, I want to thank you so much for your time. I do want to apologize for the laggy video recording that I had earlier on in this video. Again, I do hope you were able to take something away from this video today, and as always, happy financing.